Nigeria's main opposition political party still at crossroads. Now, with less than 5 months to when the first ballot will be cast in the forthcoming general elections, we now turn to, for answers, Charles Aniagwu, the newly appointed spokesperson for the Atiku Abubakar Presidential Campaign Organization. It's good to have you with us. Welcome. Now,
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, let's begin with the crisis or disagreement in PDP regarding Governor Wike, of course, Mr. Ayu, and your principal, Abubakar Atiku. So are there any breakthroughs so far in consultations? And walk us through efforts so far on the current dynamics.
Well, thank you very much. We must first, as a party, appreciate the Nigerians who have shown keen interest in what is happening in our party. And that is also understandably so, because Nigerians are looking forward to the PDP to rescue the country from the present very disturbing situation, both economically and in terms of those issues that unite us before now, that have now more or less been torn apart. And so it's understandable why everybody is very much interested in what's happening in the PDP. And we're also pleased to report that a whole lot of ground have been covered, progresses are being made in different quarters. And in any case, it's not a disagreement as you may want to paint it, it's just a question of individuals finding how to get the party back to winning ways. Our leader, Governor Wike, and a number of other leaders believe that a number of things need to be put in place so that the party can win and win effectively. And then the leadership of the party, on the other hand, led by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and the presidential candidate of the party, is also seized of these different agitations. And being a listening party and listening leadership, they have also been able to take a second look and then ask that if indeed a member of the party is pointing in one direction, there may be the likelihood of pain coming from that direction. And there is a need to apply some shooting ban within the confines of the law. And so in the course of the meeting of the NEC, those issues were examined, and then decisions were reached based on what is permissible by the law or the constitution of the party. Because don't forget that the party operates on a constitution and rules. And if you go against those rules, that will become a recipe for some form of crisis, which may even be triggered by the ruling APC that are waiting in the wings, waiting for the party to make mistake. And then they possibly take some persons either within or outside the party to approach the court with a view to further destabilizing the party. And so the NEC examined those issues. And I'm also happy to report to you that yesterday here, I also listened to our leader, Governor Wike, and the former governor of Ekiti State, Ayo Fayoshé, a man that is known to always speak truth to power, eulogizing the person of Atiku Abubakar as a man that does not harbor any hatred for Governor Wike. The issue is that, yes, you needed to raise these issues. We only disagreed for the purpose of agreeing. Because if this disagreement didn't happen, there may be a likelihood of having peace of the graveyard, and that is what will not be good for the party. And so now trying to address those issues along the lines of what the constitution of the party, as amended in 2017, permits, is a step in the right direction. You were referring to the issue of Wike disagreeing with some of the resolutions. You may need to take a second look at the timelines. The time he said it wasn't just the issue of the BOT chairman resigning, that couldn't be enough. That was at the time after the meeting of the BOT. That was before the meeting of the NEC. And so by the time the NEC met, and unanimously, just like Amaka Walker reported, you saw that there was overwhelming attendance of that particular NEC meeting where decisions were reached. It was a 21-point communique that was issued at the end of that meeting. And in the course of that meeting, a whole lot of issues were examined, both within and outside the party, including the very disturbing state of our country, which were some of the issues that triggered some decisions by the NEC. And so we are comfortable where we are. We are believing that the leaders are still continuing with the in-house cleaning. Of course, it's not every effort that you are going to read on the pages of newspaper, because our elders say that dirty linens are usually washed at the back of the house and not in front of the house, in which case there are a number of issues that will happen that you may not be seized of. But beyond that, I will also want you to appreciate Wike for demonstrating that he's very much committed to the cohesive nature that he wants the party to toe. And how do I mean? In all his outings, Governor Wike never told anybody that he's going to work for any other political party. He even went to the extent of challenging some other leaders that he disagreed with in terms of their views, that they should proceed to deliver their own part of the country or wherever they are, that he knows that he will be able to deliver his state. So what became the bone of contention beyond the issue of movement of national offices is that the leadership of the party don't want to atomize performance, in which case you are only just going to work in your zone. The leadership of the party recognizes that Nyesom Wike is a man that is more like a bulldozer and has the capability to add a whole lot of value to the party. And they don't just want him to only help in the delivering of rivers, which is a very stronghold of the party. But they want him to also be able to walk beyond rivers and help any other state where any other party may be holding sway at the moment, so that at the end of the day, we're able to brighten our chances of forming government in 2023. Those are some of the issues. There has never been any time that our dear Governor Wike said he was going to walk away from the party. He kept making it very clear that he's going to deliver, and that the project has been very busy commissioning, is to let individuals know that the PDP is a performing party. And so you must look at that aspect and not the only issues of the changes that he would want to happen with respect to the National Working Committee. Perhaps as we progress in this discussion, I will also take you to some issues that individuals may have argued that is not actually in line with the spirit and intent of our law as the PDP Constitution.
All right. So, Mr. Aniagwu, are you saying that you feel confident that decisions taken earlier this week at that meeting are far-reaching enough to kickstart the process of healing within your party, on the long term, that is?
Well, so far it has been able to point to the right directions, but let me make it very, very clear. There were issues, which is the main issue that individuals have continued to canvass, the issue of the stepping down of the national chairman, which of course now has been overtaken by events following the endorsement by the National Executive Committee of the party that they have now received a vote of confidence. Individuals may interpret it to mean calling the bluff of some person. That is not it. I told you earlier that the party leadership examined the issues vis-a-vis the provisions of the party's constitution as amended in 2017, and that when you look at that constitution, there are principal offices that we call National Working Committee of the party. And that National Working Committee is led by the national chairman. And in the order of a precedence, in the order of arrangement, the hierarchy of that particular National Working Committee, after the national chairman, the next person in line by virtue of the provisions of the constitution is the deputy national chairman, who comes or who must also come from the same region as the national chairman. And the third in line is the national secretary. Now, when you look at these positions, the national chairman is from the north, and because of the position of the constitution of the party, the deputy, who is the second in command, also comes from that same region. The same way it happened when Uche Secondus was also in the south, and the deputy national chairman also came from the south. The reason is this, so that in the event, like if you proceed to section 45 of the PDP constitution, it makes it very clear that in the event of a resignation or removal of the national chairman, the national deputy chairman takes over and acts in the position of that national chairman, pending when the party is able to either organize another election or through a next meeting is able to take a decision as to how to rearrange the hierarchy of the party. But knowing quite well that these positions were elective positions, even if you had asked Ayu to step down so that the power will come from come to the south, the provisions of the constitution of the party will also be offended, except you have to also take another decision to also remove the national deputy chairman of the party, because the slot falls on him immediately by provisions of the law. It is already automatically triggered by that provision of our law, which is particularly section 45 of the PDP constitution as amended in 2017. Now, in the event that the party is able to solve that challenge, that puzzle, because it is easy for you to say, okay, why not remove the national chairman? Why not remove the deputy national chairman? When you do that and you bring both of them to the south, the third person in the hierarchy of the National Working Committee of the party is the National Secretary. And the National Secretary, as we speak today, is in the south, specifically from Aniagwu, from Senator Aniagwu from Imo State. Now, if you decide in bringing these two to the southern part of the country, have you also made arrangement to be able to take the National Secretary back to the north? What does that tell you? And these are not appointed positions, these are elective positions. The party examined it that given the time that we have, which is just about 6 months from now till when we are going to have the presidential election, that it may likely snowball into some form of crisis that could trigger a whole lot of discomfort within the party. And that if you proceed to begin to make these changes, there is a tendency that the party may be embroiled in a crisis that will be worse than what you are seeing at the moment. And that is what the ruling APC is actually waiting to happen. But the leadership of the party is intelligent enough, and I am happy that Nyesom Wike and other persons appreciate the fact that there is need for the party to move as a whole and rather than atomized in nature into the 2023 general elections. And so you can understand the basis why the party now decided to look at what is possible. It was possible to take away the chairman of the BOT and bring him to the north, because if you recall, before now, our brother and leader Wike mentioned the BOT chairman in the north, the national chairman in the north, and the presidential candidate in the north. Those were the three positions. Now, one out of those three positions have come to the south to join the vice presidential candidate in the south and the secretary of the party in the south. So there is some form of balance. But what is important and most important is that there is a bigger elephant here. And it is said in local parlance that once you are carrying the big elephant on your head, that it will be foolhardy to begin to dig for the cricket with your foot. Because it is not only that you are going to lose sight of the heavy nature or the importance of the elephant that you have on your head, and in this case, the 2023 general elections, which you are poised to win, which we believe Nigerians will not forgive us if we decide not to rescue the country from where we are at the moment. And so that big elephant has become the bigger picture. And I'm quite convinced that our other leaders who have raised issues with respect to how to make the party to move as a much more coherent body will appreciate the decisions that have been taken. It means that the party is listening, and that in the course of time, probably by the grace of God, when, and I use the word when advisedly, when the party may have won the election in 2023, we can now proceed to begin to do some other form of alterations that will not be injurious to the need for us to carry this big elephant and carry it very, very effectively and efficiently for the good of our country.
Yeah, a rather heavy elephant to carry there, Charles. But, you know, in other news, it's no longer news, rather, that the chair of Board of Trustees for PDP have resigned. But what are the gains and expectations here? How would you assess their tenure, especially in the midst of the current issues, the current narratives, you think?
Let me make it very clear. There have been issues with individuals saying that the Board of Trustee chairman is just advisory. No. The conscience of the party is the BOT. And you know what the conscience does to an individual. When a man doesn't have a conscience, he acts so recklessly. When you have conscience, it brings in you that human empathy to be able to look at issues much more objectively and as to how it favors different individuals. So when the BOT chairman leaves for the purpose of giving strength to that conscience of the party, so that at the end of the day, there is some form of inclusiveness across the geopolitical divide, that cannot just be taken to be just mere advisory. It has, to a very large extent, assuaged frayed nerves, and we are quite comfortable that as we make progress, we'll be able to also look at the other issues. There is a saying in our local communities that when you see the surface of the pounded yam, it looks very, very smooth and fine, well grained. But as you proceed to begin to cut it bit by bit, and you begin to swallow it, you may likely notice that there are some little grains that were not properly grind, and then you need to take a decision as to how to take a look at it. If you also come to even the issue of lawmaking in the National Assembly, where by the grace of God I had the privilege of operating as a correspondent for over a decade, you can pass a law today, and in less than a week, the need for you to do a review of that law, even after you may have taken views from a cross-section with public hearing and different stakeholders being able to put in their words. But on the point of operation, you're able to notice that there is need for you to further tinker what you may have done before. How do I mean by this analysis? I am saying that when a decision is taken, you don't foreclose the possibility of a review with a view to ensuring that you fine-tune your processes. By the grace of God, once you are done with the big elephant, which is winning this election in 2023, the party can come up again to begin to say, okay, now we have a president. It is important for the purpose of carrying everybody along the way a number of other leaders desire, that will now organize a national convention. You know that it is not easy to organize an elective convention of a big party such as the PDP. It is not a kind of smaller political parties. I don't want to say mushroom because that may be derogatory, but smaller political parties that can just hire a room in a hotel and then invite some persons who may even come from one zone, and then they decide at the convention of their party. In the case of the PDP, you have to move across the over 8,000 wards in the country to be able to generate the delegates of that convention, which will eventually proceed to the local government level to elect those who will represent the different local government, in addition to other elective offices that already exist in the party. And being a big party, you are going to be dealing with a large crowd. And beyond the issue of a large crowd, there is also the tendency of individuals having different persuasion within the party. Because, of course, we are human beings, we are in a society with diverse views, diverse persuasion, whether religious, ethnic, or otherwise. And that being the case, for you to take a decision that you have to organize that kind of convention, you must first of all look at the pictures. And the question is, what is the picture at the moment? The picture is that we are very much occupied with selling the very, very wonderful 5-point agenda of our candidate, which speaks to the issues of the challenges that confront us today as a country, i.e. issues of insecurity, issues of division among the different regions and ethnic groups in the country, issues of a poor educational standard in our country, issues of devolution of power in form of either restructuring or allowing the component units to perform much more better, and of course, not forgetting the need for us to become much more united and, of course, address the many issues of the economy. And for us to address these issues, we cannot get engaged in some form of acrobatic dance, because that's what Nigerians are looking forward to. Perhaps if that's what they want, they can go to any circus show and get themselves entertained. What Nigerians are looking forward to at the moment is a party that is going to rescue them from where we are at the moment, to rescue them from a naira that is dancing like the football in the foot of Okocha, to rescue them from a country where when you sleep, the luxury of even closing one eye has become very expensive, to rescue them from a situation where our children have stayed out of school for more than upward of 7 months, to rescue them from a situation where the man in Kalabari may not trust the man in Zango Kataf, to rescue them from a situation where you do not even have the states and the local government functioning, even being the government that is closer to the people at the grassroots. And that is much more important than any possible cycle show. And I'm quite pleased that all the leaders of the party across board, including Governor Nyesom Wike, who have played a very prominent role in, of course, in holding the party together in the course of these last 7.5 years of the abysmal performance of APC, that all of them are very committed to putting the party back to winning ways, getting the party to be better organized, getting the party to be able to rescue us from these issues that I have mentioned initially. And so if that is the case, the Board of Trustees, the National Working Committee, the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate, as well as other organs of the party, including the governors that we do have enormous respect for, are very much poised to be able to face this challenge, confront it, and deal with it effectively, so that Nigerians will be happy with us, because they are looking forward to the PDP to rescue them from these very ugly situations that I mentioned earlier. And so that is the focus, and we are not going to lose sight of the focus.
All right, Mr. Aniagwu, we've got to love your adages and references, and many would argue with you that there are quite a number of many more elephants lurking around. But on the PDP's front, you have been a rather strong proponent of the idea of devolution of power. We also know that this is addressed in your party's policy document. How cumbersome would you say that executing this idea would be for the party should the PDP triumph at the polls next year? And I would like for you to answer this very briefly, please.
Well, you talked about the issue of many elephants. It's also said in our local community that when you are walking along the farm road and eventually the rain falls and possibly a lot of wind, some trees may have fallen on top of the other. But what is most important is that for you to be able to make progress, you must remove the tree that is on top before you approach the one below. The big elephant is the one we have removed. And as we make progress, we can now begin to now address these other trees that are below, so that we can have our way to our farm, to our particular farm, for us to be able to plant, possibly nurture and harvest very wonderful products. That is the issue with respect to the many elephants that you rightly referred to in your question. But I can tell you, the issue of devolution of power, what is beautiful about it is that Atiku is not just working alone. He's not working with the I mentality. He's working with the we philosophy. And the we philosophy is in line with the principles of democracy, which talks about the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And that is the reason why he's consulting a cross-spectrum of our society, including those who are not even in the political party. As I speak to you in the course of this week in Lagos, he will be interfacing with the Chamber of Commerce for the purpose of meeting with other persons in the business community and getting to know their demands and their needs as it affects the economy. But coming strictly to the issue of devolution of power, there are different needs in different communities. Long before now, there are individuals that have talked about fiscal federalism. Fiscal federalism to the extent of states having to harness the resources at their disposal of beneath their soil and then possibly paying some form of royalties or some form of funds to the federal government. But beyond that, it is something that Atiku believes that we need to come together. Take a look at it and then look at the practicability. How do we now devolve this power? So that at the end of the day, the federal government will not just become interested in a clinic in a community that the federal government is not even aware of. If the federal government is going to take on issues in the health sector, they should be able to provide necessary policies, not to get involved in primary health care, even when they don't know where these clinics or dispensaries are located. That the state should be equipped, both financially and policy-wise, to be able to deal with those issues. You recall the other time in the course of the meeting by the Nigerian Bar Association, a meeting that was very well organized, our presidential candidate mentioned that there is a need to collaborate with the states so as to ensure that we have an educational system that functions. Individuals misunderstood him to say that he wants to hand over federal universities to states. And I said he never said so. What he said is that he is going to work very closely with the states, not as a headmaster, but as a partner in progress, for the purpose of devolving powers so that it becomes very, very beneficial to Nigerians. If you look at page 44 of the policy document titled My Covenant with Nigeria by Atiku Abubakar, you will understand that he made it very, very clearly. Having identified the challenges confronting the education system, he proceeded to now outline the policy objectives in that direction. And he was clear when he said that the federal government will ensure that necessary policies are evolved for us to be able to have an educational system that not only work, but work for all of us. And that being the case, you could see that he's not just going to proceed just as an individual and atomizing the issues, but rather take a much more holistic approach to ensure that everybody is carried along, not only in line with the principles of democracy, but in line with his #1 agenda, which is to unite our country today. Indeed. I have made it very, very clear in the course of my previous interview, both in your station and in other sister stations, that the greatest problem we have today is the mismanagement of our diversity by the APC.
All right.
Every other challenge you have today confronting us as a country is symptomatic of that particular issue.
Very good. If I may just come in. Yes, you've said so much about PDP and all, but I would like us to focus a little on your primary constituents to Delta State. What would you consider the key achievements of Governor Ifeanyi Okowa, and how can he ensure a sustained legacy by the incoming administration? I'd like you to do this in 2 minutes, please.
Well, thank you very much. Now you want me to speak as Commissioner for Information in Delta, but I can tell you that both of them are interwoven. In Delta here, we have been able to give faith to the 5-point agenda of the Okowa-led administration called Name Smart, where we have been able to evolve policy priorities that are targeted at issues of creating wealth for our people, which is why to a very large extent we paid a whole lot of attention to the issue of job creation through skills acquisition of a number of persons, particularly the youth, because we believe that they are not just leaders of tomorrow, but the leaders of today. And to that extent, we can beat our chest to say that a whole lot of progress have been made in that direction, because no fewer than 13,000 persons have been directly empowered in that particular scheme. And these individuals remotely has also been able to engage over 100,000 persons. The effect on our economy is very pronounced, which is why even as far back as 2018, the National Bureau of Statistics recognized Delta as #2 in terms of states that have been able to reduce poverty in our country and that have been able to improve the standard of living of their people. In the area of infrastructure, we have done over 1,800 kilometers of road with over 900 kilometers of line drains. The reason why we pay so much attention in constructing roads because we needed to open up our communities and give them opportunities to be able to harness the many goods that exist in our different local communities, and that we have achieved a whole lot. But what is most important to us is what we have done in the creeks. Areas that was hitherto referred to as very difficult terrain to develop. We have made a whole lot of impact in that region, which is why today as a country, we are enjoying a whole lot of peace from the Niger Delta. You do recall that before now, Delta is always in the news for the wrong reason. But for a very long time now, we've been able to ensure that our brothers and sisters in the creeks are carried along. This is one of the things that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar saw, that made him to say, no, I need a partner who is progressive in nature. I need a partner that can respond to the needs of the youth. I need a partner that can afford to address the issues of unity in his state, because Delta is a microcosm of Nigeria, where you also have diverse ethnic groups. And that partner can join me in ensuring that we bond together as a country, and we knit all those fabrics so that at the end of the day, we're able to close those gaps that exist between the different regions of our country. And so, in different ways, we have been able to achieve a whole lot, and we give God the glory because we have secured the cooperation of our royal fathers, of our youths, of our women, of our leaders, Today, we exist not as Urobos, not as Aniomas, not as Ijos, not as Isokos or as Ishekiris. We exist today as Delta. And so when you hear a Delta and say, Delta not they carry last, they are not just joking. It is because we have now come together to realize that we did not just choose our state. Fate chose us as individuals who will come from this region of the country, and we are very pleased with other parts of the country and ready to collaborate with them, both in terms of human resources and in terms of whatever God has given to us. So at the end of the day, we don't just have one Nigeria, but we have one Nigeria where the man from Isoko land will trust the man from Kalabari in Rivers, where the man in Kalabari in Rivers will trust the man from Kara Namoda in faraway northern Nigeria. And of course, even the man in Nguru, we want to exist as a people. I served in Yobe State. I was treated very well, even much better than I thought I could have been treated in Delta State. I look forward to that Nigeria coming back so that at the end of the day, we trust ourselves once again. And I'm quite confident that the Atiku Okowa ticket will bring back Nigeria, where I can afford to travel to Maiduguri without caring that there must be somebody to protect me, that the people there will protect me the way I was protected when I was serving in Yobe State. Once that happens, you will discover that we will return to winning ways. All these other symptomatic melees in our country will be solved. Whether it's issue of corruption, bad economy, insecurity, they happen because diversity was badly mismanaged by the APC.
All right, very positive outlook there. And on that note, we want to thank you, Mr. Charles Aniagwu, for joining us this morning to have this very pertinent conversation.